Prana. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Ashtotra Sadasri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Janithai Gaur Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Today we are continuing to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 30, entitled Description of Adverse Fruitive Activities. Text 15. I have been asked to cover 15, 16 and 17. Aste avamatyo panyastam Grihapala ivaharan Amayavi apradiptagnir Alpaharo alpachestitaha Aste avmataya upanyastam Grihapala ivaharan Amayavi apradiptagnir Alpaharo alpachestitaha Aste avamatyo panyastam Grihapala ivaharan Amayavi apradiptagnir Alpaharo alpachestitaha. So I'll request one Prabhu to chant the mantra, and then probably if there's no Matajis, then because I have to cover 3 verses. And those who are new to this session, we are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. If you want to take darshan, charanamrit, you can take. And if you want to be in this session, we would request you to observe silence.
Amayavi apradiptagnir Alpaharo alpachestitaha.
Word to word meaning. Aste, he remains. Avamatya, negligently,
negligently,
upanyastam,
upanyastam,
what is placed,
what is placed,
grihapalaha,
grihapalaha,
a dog,
a dog,
eva,
eva,
like,
like,
aharan,
aharan,
eating,
eating,
amyayavi,
amyayavi,
amayavi,
amayavi,
deceased,
diseased,
apradipta agnihi,
apradita agni,
having dyspepsia,
having dyspepsia,
alpa,
alpa,
little,
little,
aharaha,
ahara,
eating,
eating,
alpa,
alpa,
little, chestitaha,
chestitaha,
his activity.
his activity.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thus he remains at home just like a pet dog and eats whatever is so negligently given to him. Afflicted with many illnesses such as dyspepsia and loss of appetite. Sorry, if we can observe silence, that will be good. Thanks. Afflicted by many illnesses such as dyspepsia and loss of appetite, he eats only very small morsels of food and he becomes an invalid who cannot work any more. Purport. Before meeting death, one is sure to become a deceased invalid. And when he is neglected by his family members, his life becomes less than a dog's because he is put into so many miserable conditions. Vedic literatures enjoin, therefore, that before the arrival of such miserable conditions, one should leave home and die without the knowledge of his family members. If a man leaves home and dies without his family's knowing, that is considered to be a glorious death. But an attached family man wants his family members to carry him in a great procession even after his death, and although he will not be able to see how the procession goes, he still desires that his body be taken gorgeously in procession. Thus he is happy without even knowing where he has to go when he leaves his body for the next life. I'll read the word-to-word meaning translation for text 16. Please hear. Vayuna, by air. Utkramat, mata, bulging out. Uttaraha, his eyes. Kapha, with mucus. Samruddha, congested. Nadikaha, his windpipe. Kasa, coughing. Swasa, breathing. Krita, done. Ayasaha, difficulty. Kante, in the throat. Ghura ghurayate, he produces a sound like ghura ghura. Translation. In that diseased condition, one's eyes bulge due to the pressure of air from within, and his glands become congested with mucus. He has difficulty breathing, and upon exhaling and inhaling, he produces a sound like ghura ghura, a rattling within the throat. Text 17, word-to-word meaning. Sayanaha, lying down. Parishchodabihi, lamenting. Parivitaha, surrounded. Swabandhubihi, by his relatives and friends. Vachaya mana, being urged to speak. Api, although. Na, not. Brute, he speaks. Kala, of time. Pasha, the noose. Vasam, under the control of. Gataha, gone. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In this way, he comes under the clutches of death and lies down, surrounded by lamenting friends and relatives, and although he wants to speak with them, he no longer can because he is under the control of time. Purport. For formality's sake, when a man is lying on his deathbed, his relatives come to him, and sometimes they cry very loudly, addressing the dying man, "Oh my father, oh my friend," or "Oh my husband." In that pitiable condition, the dying man wants to speak with them and instruct them of his desires. But because he is fully under the control of the time factor, death, he cannot express himself, and that causes him inconceivable pain. He is already in a painful condition because of disease, and his glands and throat are choked up with mucus. He is already in a very difficult position, and when he is addressed by his relatives in that way, his grief increases. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This philosophically deep dialogue between Mother Devahuti and Lord Kapila, which brings out the glories of devotional service and the beauty of the form of the Lord, the other paths like Jnana, then the path of Ashtanga Yoga, and how they are also dependent on the Lord, that is being brought out in earlier chapters. In the 29th chapter, Mother Devahuti was asking about the effect of time, the power of time, and also to describe the effect of time on a materially afflicted person, the effect of the illusory energy on such a person, so that we can get detached from this material nature and get attached towards the Lord and progress quickly. So attachment to the Lord was described earlier. That alone, if the person is fully and immersed in that attachment, detachment comes naturally. But for a person who is so much attached to his family life and who doesn't know the future that's for him, what is holding, for such a person, along with attachment to the Lord, these kind of graphic descriptions help them to gradually get detached from family life and be fixed in devotional service. As Lord Krishna himself says in the 15th chapter, that one has to cut this material existence, the knot, with a sword of knowledge. Asanga shastrena dridena chitva. So, in the 29th chapter, verse number 3, Mother Devahuti was asking about the effect of time. So in that particular verse, this word is being used, samshriti. Samshriti means the continued journey on the path of birth and death towards the darkest region of material existence. So, if one understands where they are heading towards, at least they will have the impetus that I don't want to go through all of this, and I will naturally I'll get inspiration to perform devotional service and accelerate my path towards liberation. So the effect of time, the attachment of the living entity to his body, and how he forgets the effect of time, and how he experiences happiness in various species of life. Even though he is put in a body of an animal, the living entity still enjoys. So these were described in the previous set of verses. And in today's set of verses 15, 16 and 17, that same person who was working day and night, shedding his blood and sweat to maintain that family, that same person is being neglected, and how he is getting treated by his own family members, and that is being very graphically described. It may not be something that you want to listen on a Monday morning and feel inspired about, but however, because it's giving us inspiration to move towards the Lord and take shelter of His lotus feet. So let us look at the key points from the purport. Prabhupada doesn't hide anything. He just puts in the purport the blunt truth which you can't shy away from. He begins by saying this particular statement: before meeting death, one is sure to become diseased and invalid. It's very confronting, but it is the truth. Before meeting death, one is sure to become diseased and invalid. So this is talking about miseries caused by one's own body. Then in this purport and in the next set of purports, the miseries caused by one's own mind is also being described very graphically. Then the next statement goes, when he is neglected by his family members, so that neglect, that causes him pain in the mind. And the way they treat him is described as that of a dog. The same house which this attached person spent a lot of time and energy to build and give comforts to all his family members, that same family members are now, they are in a healthy position, but he is in a not so healthy position, and he is in his last stage of life. And how do they treat him? Like that of a dog. And because of this treatment, his mind is pained. So bodily pain, mental pain. Now this describes the problem. So in the next statement, Prabhupada gives the solution. The Vedic literatures therefore enjoin that before the arrival of such miserable conditions, one should leave home and die without the knowledge of his family members. If a man leaves home and dies without his family's knowing, that is considered to be a glorious death. Now, how do we understand this? The only verse that came to my mind that supported this particular statement, where Vedic literatures enjoin that before the arrival of such miserable condition, one should leave home. So, one verse and one example. The example is Dhritarashtra leaving home after he hears from Vidura, which was discussed yesterday elaborately by Mataji. So, I thought I'll focus on the other verse which came to my mind, where Prahlad Maharaj is instructing his father, Hiranyakashipu. Anyone remembers that famous verse, 755? It begins with Tat Sadhu Manye. You remember, Prabhu? Sada Samudvigna. Tat Sadhu Manye. Vanam Gatoyat Harimashrayeta. So the verse is 755, where Prahlad Maharaj is instructing his father, is glorifying him. Tat sadhu manye asura varya dehinam sada samudvigna diyam asadgrahat. So after the glorification comes the subtle, you are asura varya dehinam, the king of the asuras, but you have accepted a material body. Sada samudvigna diyam asadgrahat. Because of accepting temporary body or bodily relationships as real, thinking I am this body and everything belonging to this body is mine. This is from the word to word meaning of 755. So give up, hitva, giving up. Giving up what? Atmapatam, a place where spiritual culture of self-realization is stopped. Griham, the bodily concept of life or the household life. How is it described as? Andakupam, which is nothing but a blind well where there is no water but nonetheless searches for water. So that's how it is described. If you're in that position, then you have to go to Vanam. Vanam Gatoyat Harimashrayeta. After going to Vanam, it's not that you don't do anything. What is instructed is you take shelter of the feet of Lord Hari. Harim Ashrayeta. You take shelter of Lord Hari. I'll read the translation. O best of the asuras, the king of demons, as far as I have learnt from my spiritual master, any person who has accepted a temporary material body and temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because of having fallen in a dark well where there is no water but only suffering. One should give up this position and go to the forest, Vana. Prabhupada doesn't stop there. He adds this extra line. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavana, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent, and should thus take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm not sure if online listeners can hear with this volume. You just have to check. So the instruction in this particular purport I felt has to be read in conjunction with what Prabhupada is saying later on in his other purports. One shouldn't take that, okay, I've read this purport, I will leave my home and not inform others and I will die because it's given in the purport. So where to go, what should be done, that is also given in the subsequent purports. This is based on my limited understanding. Other devotees can comment on this. So 755, last few lines of the purport, Prabhupada says about going to Vrindavan and what should one do. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we therefore invite all the elderly persons of the world to come to Vrindavana and stay there in retired life, making advancement in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. So I felt the purport should be read, the lines of the purport, and then subsequent explanation Prabhupada gives later on, giving directions as to what one has to do. So the principle is, before you get treated like a dog at home, you have to leave, and before dying, you have to take shelter of the feet of the Lord. And where to go, not just any forest, but to Vrindavana. and take association of the devotees, perfect your life. And the conditions are also given if the householder life is not conducive for spiritual life. So, if we look at the word-to-word meaning, where the place where spiritual culture or self-realization is stopped, from such a house you leave. So to balance this out, in other purports, Prabhupada has also explained the householder life. If a person in householder life, morning and evening, he chants the name of the Lord, he reads scriptures together with the family, he does Sankirtan Yajna at home, such a person is not required to take the renounced order of life, because he has turned his home into a place where the glorification of the Lord is happening continuously. Such a person doesn't have to leave. And as explained yesterday also, members of the family, the affection is natural towards them. So Mataji explained about attachment and affection. So if the family life is conducive, one doesn't have to leave. A person who is earning livelihood and maintaining such a family and giving a portion of his wealth towards the propagation of Krishna consciousness movement is glorified even more than a sannyasi. That's there in the 18th chapter purports. So one has to balance these two extreme instructions, like if the spiritual culture is not there, you leave. If it is there, you continue. In the same purport, Prabhupada will explain. At the same time, if the family life is not supportive, you leave. Now, why should the person in the last stages of life, why is he asked to leave? One explanation I got is from the 17th verse purport. The purport goes like this. A person is lying in his deathbed and his family members are treating him like a dog, and he is going through bodily pain and psychological pain. Now, adding to this, other relatives come and sometimes they cry loudly, addressing the person as, "Oh my father, oh my friend, oh my husband." Now what this does is it increases the pain of the already painful person going through bodily and psychological pain. The purport says that he tries to speak to them, but his organs are not functioning. The previous 16th verse purport talked about how the eyes are bulging out due to imbalance of the air, the mucus is choking up his throat, because of which he is making a sound. Despite of this, his relatives come and then address him and call him with various designations. And this pains him, and he wants to express his material desires to them. Maybe he wants to give them some instructions, and this causes inconceivable pain. That's how Prabhupada writes in the purport. He is already in a painful condition because of disease, and his glands and throat are choked up with mucus. He is already in a very difficult position, and when he is addressed by his relatives in that way, his grief increases. So one is the bodily reinforcement is being made by calling you father, friend, whatever it is, out of which you have to supposed to come out at least at the time of death. Second, your psychological pain is also increasing further. In addition to being treated like a dog, you're not able to speak, you're not able to express your desires, which is again material desires. To avoid all of this, one is asked to go to a holy place. In the holy place, you will be reminded of the Lord. Right? You'll be hearing the ringing of the bells of the temple, the kirtans that are going there. The place will remind you of the Lord. The people, you see, depending on their dress, their whatever they wear in their forehead, you will be reminded of the Lord again. So the place is reminding, the people are reminding, and definitely in a holy place there will be devotees. They will remind you of the Lord. They will address you. In Vrindavan it's quite common to address each other if they want to call Radhe Radhe, like that. You will chant the Hare, the mantra will be heard. Even addressing people, they won't address you with your bodily designation. Right? So what's happening is, you are coming out of bodily consciousness. You are in a spiritual environment. The place is reminding you of spirituality. The people around you are reminding. And you will be naturally inspired. They will speak to you about the Lord, not about your own material desires. Because they know in a holy place why are elderly people there, not to discuss their material desires. They will discuss about the Lord. They will remember the Lord. Now, all of this will help you to get to that crucial point of Ante Narayana Smriti, so that you can remember the Lord. Now, what if a person is in the holy place and is attempting to remember or chant, but he is not able to do? What happens then? It's from the Bali Maharaj's pastime. We understand that Bali Maharaj wanted to offer obeisances to the Lord, but he controlled himself and he didn't offer obeisances because he was surrounded by his fellow demoniac associates. But the Lord understood his intention and he accepted those obeisances. So Lord is Bhavagrahi Janardana. So a dying man, he is attempting to chant the name of the Lord, he is surrounded by people, he is in a holy place, his attempt is a success. His result of the mantra may not come out. That's the result. The result may be successful or may not be successful, but the attempt is success. So that is why such attempt of a person who is in a helpless condition to chant the name of the Lord. So when describing the glories of the holy name, we come across this verse, Sanketyam Parihasyam Vya Stobam Helanam Evava Vaikunta Namanugrahanam. In that verse, whether you are calling out to the name of the Lord as mockingly, as jokingly, or you want to use that name of the Lord for your musical alankar, or you are calling out in a helpless condition, it has its effect. It has its effect. So therefore, a person going to the holy place in such a helpless condition. So when you get there, before you reach such helpless condition, you make arrangements so that when you reach that helpless condition, you are in an advantageous position. And when such a person in a completely helpless condition calls out to the Lord, because your possessions are already taken away, health is gone, wealth is gone, relatives are gone, but you are situated in a holy place. When you are in that situation, when you call out to the Lord responds. So what's the pastime that comes to your mind of a person? Gajendra. Very good. Draupadi. Ajamil. Yes, very specifically I was looking at a dying person in a helpless condition, calling out to the name of the Lord, not intending the name of the Lord. So that's the effect. And we have already discussed about going to a holy place and calling out. So the place will also have its effect. When you have given up all of these possessions and you take shelter of the Lord exclusively, as Mother Kunti prays. Janmaishvarya Shutashri Bihir Etamana Matah Puman Naivarhat Abhidatum Vai Thwam Akinchana Gocharam. Akinchana Gocharam. You have, so Janma, Aishwarya, Shuta, one person doesn't have any of this, but if he has taken shelter of you, you become his possession. Tvam akinchana gocharam. Having covered the main points from the purport, what I thought of doing is drawing out some philosophical points and conclusions and some practical applications that we can learn from this particular set of purports. So here is a situation where the physical strength, then the wealth, all of that is being gradually taken away from the attached householder. And the situation is not going to be different for devotees. Prabhupada says, don't think this will not happen to you. When during his days when he's having health issues, when his disciples were trying to look down upon him because of his bodily transformation. So Prabhupada warned, said, don't think this will not happen to you. So Lord has given us this particular body with the set of senses, and it is His blessing. So He gave it at one particular point of time, and as time progresses, He is taking it away. So the senses function only based on the sanction of the Lord. So if I want to lift my hand, I can desire, then the Lord has to sanction. Then the demigods responsible for this, they have to sanction, and along with that only all of this happens. So we think we are the doers, and when we are put in this kind of a situation where the organs are not functioning, then we know we can only desire. The Lord has been sanctioning so far, so we are not the controller, we are not the doers, we are just a cooperator. So taking this opportunity of helpless condition, we can surrender to the Lord. In this helpless condition, although the Lord is taking away these things from us, this bodily strength, all of that, one thing the Lord cannot take away from us. What is that? Your consciousness. Your free will, that the Lord doesn't interfere. The Lord can take away everything, but your individuality is still with you. Now, when we are healthy, so let us use our free will to align with the will of the Lord and cooperate with Him, and in that way we have the strength to pass the final test. So while we are healthy, use our free will, use our senses and all the organs that we have got, and engage all of them in intense devotional service, so that the body becomes spiritualized. As we see in the Nectar of Instruction, verse 6, the body of a devotee who has been engaging in devotional service for a long period, it may have some deformation, but one shouldn't look at the devotees who have given their body, mind and words for a longer period and who are having a diseased body. We shouldn't look down upon them because their body is spiritualized. So when our organs are in a good condition, so let us apply our will and engage in devotional service with Tivra so that our body becomes spiritualized. So when the organs, when the limbs of our body are functioning nicely, let us engage in the various limbs of devotional service. What are the different limbs of devotional service? What are some of them? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. What else? Archanam. Okay. So, I was expecting that. Archanam. So, Archanam is this deity worship. Right? That requires a lot of effort from the body and the mind. And when we are hale and healthy, let us engage in deity worship with all our sensory power and the blessings of the Vaishnavas and Guru, and engage our mind and absorb in it so much that when we reach a state where our limbs are not functioning, we can still do the worship through mind. So in the deity worship, there is this crucial step of Bhuta Shuddhi. So deity worship pretty much begins straight away after you get up. Before even you step on the ground, you actually pray to Mother Earth and take her blessings that I'm going to step on you and kindly forgive me. And then you actually recite some verses. I forgot this Bhagavatam verse where one particular verse covers all the pastimes of the Lord. So one has to recite that particular verse when he gets up. Maybe it will come to me. And then he has to take blessings from Mother Earth. Then he gets up, then he cleans his body. So while cleaning his body also he can chant Om apavitraho pavitro va sarvavastam gatopi va yaha smaret pundarikaksham sabhaya abhayantaraha suchihi. He can chant that mantra while taking bath. He can call out to the holy rivers by calling out to their name. You invoke them. Then you put on fresh cloth. Then you chant the tilak mantras and decorate your body, different parts of the body, touching different parts of the body and putting tilak, decorating. Then you come to the paraphernalia room. Then you do what is called archaman, pouring water and injecting the name of the Lord in the water and sipping. Then you take blessings of your spiritual master who initiated you and Param Guru, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Then you chant the Bhuta Shuddhi prayers. If you want a chair, you can sit on a chair. This Bhuta Shuddhi prayer actually helps us to situate ourselves in a spiritual platform and come out of bodily consciousness. I will share that. I am. So this is a set of statements the pujari has to recite before he touches the deity for worship. I am by nature an eternal servitor of Krishna, but due to misfortune and being inimical towards Lord Krishna from time immemorial, and I have been identifying myself with this temporary material body and going through this cycle of birth and death, suffering the threefold miseries of material existence. But due to some unimaginable good fortune, my spiritual master, then you have to recite your spiritual master's name, and my Param Guru, you recite Srila Prabhupada's name, they have picked me up from this ocean of birth and death. By their mercy, I am able to serve them, the Vaishnavas, and their lordships. Then you mention the lordship's name in your particular temple. Shri Shri Gaurnita, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, and Prahlad Narasimha. Then comes this section where you are detaching yourself from bodily identification and you are situating yourself fully in spiritual platform. I am not a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra. I am not a Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha or a Sannyasi. I am a servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis. Naham Vipro, Nacha Narapatir, Napi Vaishyo, Na Shudro. Naham Varni, Nacha Grihapatir, No Vanasto Yatirva. Kintu Prodyan, Nikila Paramananda, Purna Amritabder, Gopi Bharat Padakamalayur, Dasa, Dasanu, Dasaha. So this situates one in the spiritual platform, takes one out of bodily platform. And this is something that when practiced over and over and again, mindfully, consciously, understanding the meaning repeatedly over a long period of time, it has a strong impression on you. So that is why Bhuta Suddhi prayers are important. And this I felt by constantly affirming ourselves about who we are and who we are not is crucial, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita 6.25. Shanair Shanair Uparamed Buddhya Driti Grihitaya Atma Samstam Manakritva Na Kinchit Api Chintayet. So in that particular verse, gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction. So how does the intelligence is sustained? It is sustained by full conviction. Conviction of what? Conviction of who we actually are. So this conviction comes from the beliefs that you have, the strong spiritual beliefs that you have, and these beliefs are reinforced when you affirm yourself with these set of statements. And thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. So this I felt of sharing so that we pass the final test. When our limbs are strong, let us do the various limbs of devotional service, and so that when our limbs are not cooperating, still we are able to do it in the mind. The other point that came to my mind is about this person who's about to die. He doesn't leave home. He is still sitting at home and thinks that by doing in this way, my dead body will be carried and in a great procession, and I'll be glorified. I may not see it, but still I have that desire. Post-death glorification. So he wants that. So while reading this, a psychological way of convincing ourselves and reforming ourselves, it was shared by few devotees. One was Sri Prahlad Prabhu and other was His Holiness Bhakti Rasayana Sagar Maharaj, where they describe a scenario that you are asked to visualize a big gathering. A lot of people are assembled in that gathering, and you're zooming into that gathering, and people have gathered there, and there is a big podium, and there are a lot of chairs, and people are ready to start a function. So you're zooming in there, and without much clarity, you see a picture of somebody is garlanded, and they're about to glorify this particular person. You zoom further in, and it is you. You're dead, and others are conducting your memorial. Now, what should you aspire to do when you're living so that others will be inspired to get up and go and speak some words about you? How would you expect them to describe you? Post-death glorification. That becomes your current goal. How should others talk about me when I am gone? Are they going to celebrate like Narakasura is dead, so let us burst crackers? Or in that memorial, you have different friends of yours, your mentors, your seniors, people who are... What do you expect them to come up and speak about you in your memorial? That becomes your current goals when you're living. So it was very powerful for me to go through that. And another devotee from Mayapur also instructed in the Dham, and he was saying, so don't think you'll live healthily forever. Know for sure that health crisis will come, and you get a rough assessment of your age depending on how well the organs are functioning now, and as each organ kind of gives an indication, you have to accelerate your bhakti, because each one is indicating. So it's an indication that it's going to stop, the entire mission is going to stop. So stay in the Dham and perform devotional service, so that in Mayapur any devotional service you do has got multiple effect. Now the last part, I wanted to focus on how the exalted devotees, how did they prepare themselves towards this final situation, how did they deal with this situation, and what lessons we can learn from that. And some of the exalted devotees were able to continue their devotional service right up to their end till they met the Lord in old age. One example came to my mind is Mother Sabari in Lord Rama's pastime. So till her mature age, her whole absorption was, Lord Ram is going to come, my spiritual master has told me, every day I'll keep the home clean, the path clean, get some fruits for him and offer it to him. One day Lord Rama will come, one day Lord Rama will come. So this has been going on. She enters her old age, body is wearing out, but the spirit is not worn out. She has faith in his spirit. So, and one day Lord Rama actually comes and he forgoes the etiquette of eating muchi, because Mother Sabari has this highest absorption that she tastes the fruits, whichever is tasty then she offers. So Lakshmana was a bit hesitant, but Lord Ram indicated, have it. You will taste highest nectar. So this is a exalted devotee where right up to the end of their mature age, they are absorbed and serving the Lord. The second example came to my mind is in Lord Jagannath's pastime in Jagannath Puri, Mother Karmabai, where the Lord personally comes to her home and eats khichdi right up to her mature age. And once she passes away, the Lord cries and says that she's definitely come back to me, but I'll miss that khichdi. So that's why the khichdi is being offered in her remembrance. Right up to the mature age, she was absorbed in that. She didn't follow many rules. She didn't take bath, she didn't clean the kitchen, but she had that devotion right up to that mature age. And that attracted the Lord. So based on Srila Prabhupada's teachings, the prayers of King Kulashekar, which Srila Prabhupada often quotes, Krishna Tvadiya Padapankaja Pancharandam, and Prabhupada sings it in a very nice way. If you have the chance, you can listen to that recording. Krishna Tvadiya Padapankaja Pancharandam Advayame Vishatu Manasa Raja Hamsa Prana Prayana Samaye Kapavada Pittaha Kantovarodana Vitau Smaranam Kutasche. So this is the prayers of the exalted devotee King Kulashekar, which Srila Prabhupada often quotes. Prana Prayana Samaye Kapavada Pittai Kantavarodana Vidau Smaranam Kutaste. So Prabhupada says, swans have a proclivity to stick their long necks underwater and wrap them around the stem of the lotus of a flower. So King Kulashekara is praying, my dear Lord Krishna, may the swan of my mind enter the network of the stem of your lotus feet. He is praying to do so now at the present moment while he is healthy and can chant Hare Krishna and entangle his mind in Krishna's thought. Therefore, King Kulashekara wishes that he may die immediately, because he fears that if he waits until later when the time of death comes, he will be choking. The elements of the body will be disrupted, and at that time there will be a rattle like ghor ghor. How will it be possible then to remember Krishna? So this is King Kulashekara's Mukuntamala Stotra number 33. So this particular stotra, Srila Prabhupada translated the first 5 verses, but later His Holiness Satsvarup Maharaj went on to complete the translation, which was done by His Grace Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu and purported by His Holiness Satsvarup Maharaj. So that I felt is relevant in understanding the mindset of the exalted devotees, what they are doing when they are healthy. Try to remember, intensify the practice of remembrance so that at the time of death, when the 5 elements are not cooperating, you can still remember the Lord. So the Lord Himself promises that Yati Vatadi Doshena Mad Bhakta Mam Na Cha Smaret. Because of the Vata Pitta doshas, if my devotee cannot remember me, Aham Smarami Mad Bhakta Nayami Paramagatim. I will remember him. I will force myself into his remembrance and I will deliver him. So His Holiness Sachinanda Maharaj shares about this point on how the Lord protects and nourishes. One way is by directly appearing in front of the devotee in form of the deity. The other way He does is appearing in the thought of a devotee, where if He is merciful, the Lord shows His mercy, His protection, His nourishment by appearing in the thought of a devotee. And that thought at the last moment of death is crucial. However, for a devotee who has been doing devotional service for his entire life, if he forgets for some reason, the Lord says, I will remember. Aham smarami mad bhakta nayami. I'll take him to the ultimate destination. And this is how Bhishma Dev also prepared himself for the ultimate end. The same Bhishma Dev, the man who spoke on different subjects with thousands of meanings and who fought on thousands of battlefields and protected thousands of men, stopped speaking and being completely freed from all bondage, withdrew his mind from everything else and fixed his wide open eyes on the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who stood before him, four-handed, dressed in yellow garments that glittered and shined. So the principles: withdrawing, stopped speaking, and fixed his mind on the feet of the Lord. By pure meditation, looking at Lord Krishna, he at once was freed from all material inauspiciousness and was relieved of all bodily pains caused by arrow wounds. Thus, all external activities of his senses at once stopped, and he prayed transcendentally to the controller of all living entities while quitting his material body. So 1.9.39, where the set of prayers of Bhishma Dev, if we have time, we can go through this, that whole section of prayers, 1.9.39, where translation goes like this: at the moment of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. At the moment of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon the chariot driver of Arjuna, who stood with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, who was very careful to give protection to Arjuna's chariot by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after death. In that verse purport, last line, the conclusion is that whoever dies looking on the personality of Godhead within or without attains his Swarupa, which is the highest perfection of life. So while we are hale and healthy, if we put the effort, at the time of death, even if we can't remember, the Lord will force himself from within. If you can't see the without, our eyes are bulged out, kapha, pitta, if you're constantly putting in that practice, I am by nature an eternal servant of Krishna, saying all of that over and over again mindfully, creating that strong impression. So many pujaris, they were sharing this experience that when they are a bit late for the puja, they will feel that they are woken up by whom? By the Lord. Yesterday, Kamsari Prabhu and few other devotees were discussing. If in material situation, if you are running late, the Lord comes and wakes you up, when you are about to take the biggest test, will the Lord not help you? So, by practicing bhakti in this way, and by taking up this full shelter, the final song I wanted to share, which we may not have time to do the entire song, is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's prayer, where Sarvatra Tomar Charane Samipya Podache Tomara Ghare Tumito Thakur Tomara Kukur Boliya Janaho More. So he considers himself in complete surrender, that Sarvasya Tomar, everything is surrendered unto you. In your lotus feet, you are my master and I am your dog. You maintain me. Sarvasya Tomar, Sarvasva Tomar, Charane Samipya. Now that I have surrendered all I possess, I fall prostrate before your house. You are the Supreme Lord. Kindly consider me your household dog. Chain me nearby and maintain me as you will. I shall remain at the doorstep and allow no enemies to enter your house. I will keep them at the bounds of the mouth surrounding your home. Whatever remnants your devotees leave behind after honoring your prasad will be my daily sustenance. I will feast on those remnants with great ecstasy. So this is sung by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in a highest mood of surrender. We may not have that same mood, but by following in their footsteps, by taking bhakti in a tivra way, we can pass the final test. I'll conclude here. No time for questions. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.